me just make sure I'm all set here. All right. Welcome everyone to the Self-Care Rockstar Show, where each week I invite experts from around the world to share their stories and information that will help you begin and continue your self-care journey. My goal is to encourage each of you to become self-care rock stars and not only fill your cup, but cause it to overflow. If you're interested in courses or programs I'm currently offering, you can go to findsally.com and click on schedule a call or email me at sally@theselfcarerockstar.com. I would love to work with you. Today, I am excited to welcome Vivian to the Rockstar stage, and we are going to be talking about a lot of fun stuff. And welcome, Vivian. I'm excited to have you here again.
Yay. Hi, Sally. Thanks for having me again. Last time we were talking about human design, and this time we're going to go to the physical body.
Perfect. Perfect. I'm excited. I know you sent me a video and I was able to watch it a little bit. And we're going to be talking about our tailbone and our legs and our hips and our knees and everything, and see how it affects us. And so I'm excited. So why don't you tell us a little bit about how you got into this, maybe, and what it all means?
Awesome. Thank you so much. So just a little bit of background. So I was a physical therapist, right? So I came and graduated in the Philippines, and then I just wanted to go to America. So I said, wow, what if I can just practice there? So I was practicing for a while. And then I had a TIA, right? Like this warning sign for a stroke. And I took it as God's way of telling me that you have to do something else. Like you have to do a different job, because whatever you're doing, if it's giving you too much stress to the point that you are getting sick, I think it's time to do something else. So that was a long time ago. I think that was in 2007. And so then I opened up my own physical therapy practice, focusing on cancer patients with lymphedema, like the swelling of arms and legs, and any kind of complicated things that people don't want to treat, or it's almost like this doom's gloom. It's like this is the end of your rope, because you just have to take medicine and all that. I'm thinking, is there a better way to address sicknesses other than that? So here comes Vivian's downloads. I call it divine download, right? Like when you're meditating and God gives you something. For me, the stroke symptoms, that's a sign like I got to do something else. It was an awakening for my spirit to say, you're not going to do that for the rest of your life unless you want to really be disabled and be sick. Okay. So that was my journey, and recognizing the signs that God's asking you to do something else is super important. In fact, this tailbone class that I teach, I had a download, and you pray, you meditate, you ask for guidance, and this is what I heard. For 4 days, don't work and just listen, because I'm about to give you something. And I'm thinking, no way. If you're thinking about, you're a business owner, you have to make money, and then you're like, not work. I'm like, I'm not going to make money for 4 days. I'm thinking, God, this is really a punishment, or you're really kidding me, right? However, I always remember that in the past, when I had a download of go to this person's event, like sometimes it would be so clear, like you're just meditating and you're like, go do this. And I'm like, okay, all right. So then I attend, and I would get these aha moments, right? Like some messages you just hear and you listen and you just do. So this particular one, the first day I remember God said, just go to the beach, do something. I went, I couldn't even get the parking spot, right? Like, how do I pay for this thing, right? In Newport Beach. Eventually, 20-30 minutes later, I got a parking already. Like, you validate the ticket, you put it on your dashboard, and then I sat right by the beach. My mind was so busy, I observed that first day, I have a journal, right? Like it's blank. I was like, okay, God, what do you want me to know? Nothing. And I'm thinking, you must be really kidding me, right? You want me to be for 4 days, nothing, and then this is what you're going to do? So I was kind of like having this conversation with God, like, I thought you were going to tell me something. But I think the message there was to like, calm down, listen a bit, right? Like, just wait. You know, guys, it's like waiting. I'm a generator and in human design, and I love to do something, right? Like I'm always doing something. And then to sit still and do nothing and wait for the message was a killer. Anyway, I went home. I was a little frustrated, but I said, well, I trust because you told me 4 days. So the second day, I didn't feel like going to the beach because I was frustrated, right? I said, where else is it quiet? So I ended up in a library, in our local library. They have these rooms you can kind of rent out, so to speak. And again, I had my blank paper, right? I had my pen, blank paper, and some reading materials that I had. So I decided to just breathe, center, and then here comes all the messages, right? Coming down like a rain pouring down, and I started writing. And tailbone was that class. So for the next 3 days, basically, I just started whatever I was hearing that God was telling me, I was writing it down. This tailbone class was the product of that, right? And some of them, I even got specific downloads on certain things. And so that's what I wanted to share with the audience, because to me, what's fascinating is like, what? It means this when this is the position of the tailbone? Like, what are you talking? Anyway, I didn't have the time to ask because it was all message. Here I am writing profusely for the next 3 days. And then the course was born. It was like that profound. And some of them, it helped me understand. So when I now touch and do any therapy, right, or any healing to a person's tailbone, I'm like, I can't believe this little structure has so much information. But rightfully so, I'm going to share with you guys how it's related so you can understand yourself. Like you can connect the dots in your process and go, oh, that's why I feel that way. Oh, that's why this is what happens when I do this. So yeah, that's it's the long journey. Sally, thank you. Thank you for inviting me here.
Wow, that's really interesting. So where is our tailbone?
So the tailbone, so we have a brain right on top, like in our head, inside
Yeah.
our head, and then we have a spinal cord, right? And all the way down, it looks like the end of our spinal cord looks like a horse's tail because it's kind of like longitudinal and then it kind of becomes a cone. And at the end of that, you're going to see like the nerves coming out on the sides, okay, and all the way down. So it looks like a horse's tail. They call it in science or medicine cauda equina, right? That's what it means. Like a tail of a horse, basically. The tail end of a horse. So the tailbone is a bone, obviously, right? So we have the vertebrae.
Yeah.
And then we have the triangular bone called the sacrum, right? In between our butt. So at the very end of that is actually the tailbone. That's where it's at.
Okay. And so what does it do? I mean, it wasn't it like supposedly like we were supposed to have a tail at one time, and it
right.
That...
Yeah, they said, right, like animals, right? Think about it.
Right.
Animals have tails, and it's supposed to be like a vestigial or like a residual structure.
Something that was just left over.
But at the same time, if you think about it, you think, oh, that's just a little tiny thing. It doesn't do anything. But when you're sitting, if you think of a tripod, right, or a triangle is actually one of the strongest shapes, right? You have squares, right? You have oblong, you have circles, but the triangle creates such strength. So if you have a triangle structure in your body, so think about those things. What has triangle shapes? Your shoulder blade, right? Your scapula looks like a triangle. Your sternum looks like a triangle. The back of your head has a triangle. Well, your pelvis looks like a triangle, right? So when you look at the body structure, once it forms a 3-point system, it is supposed to be strong. So when people start having pain, you're thinking the strongest part of your body has pain. Well, of course, there's some dysfunction. Your body's telling you something's not right. So please do something about it. Does that make sense?
Yeah. 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 I
Yeah.
like that.
Mhm.
So what's the most important thing that you want us to know about it? Or
About the tailbone. Okay. So what I wanted to know, what I wanted to share with you is that the tailbone itself, right? It has, it is part of a system that if it's working properly, it's actually going to do a lot for you. It's like your base of support. So the one thing that it does is support, right? So if you think of you know how when you sit, there's the sit bones, the pokey bones. So everybody sit and like just touch the middle of their buttocks. There's this pokey bone called the ischial tuberosity. And when you actually have the tailbone, that's the triangular base, right? It forms a triangle. Now in the front, if you look at it, it's your pubic bone that's the base, right? The very tip of the pubic bone where our organs are, right? So that covers the organ. So that's one, it has a good foundation if it's working. And a lot of people have trauma in the tailbone, right? Like maybe you're riding a horse and you fell down, right? Or as a kid, we always fall down. I did at least, like fell off the stairs, you slip and fall. We all had some kind of trauma in the area. And you think, oh, it's just a tiny little thing. It's not going to do anything to me. Unfortunately, everything from your brain to the spinal cord somehow has to end in the tailbone, right? So it's not like you cannot ignore one body part just because it's just tiny. But what if it represents so much in your life? That's the challenge that people usually have. It's we ignore the little pain and then it gives us more problem later. So, and you've heard of the expression, you always chase your tail around.
right? Chasing your tail. Yep.
Right. Okay, so what does that mean? When you heard that, like, okay, are you chasing your tail all the time, Sal? What does that mean to you?
Then I keep going around in circles and doing the same thing over and over again and not getting anywhere.
Correct. And a lot of people, I think, go that way, right? Like, it's like, why is that happening to me? But then you're really not getting to the core of the problem.
Right.
That's the tailbone. So yeah, and the tailbone also has physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual manifestations and meanings. So the more you understand your own anatomy, because unfortunately your structure dictates your function. Like if you're playing piano, but the piano is out of tune because one of the strings or chords are not working, you could be the best piano player and it's still not going to sound good. So same thing with your body. Well, everything's fine. I'm exercising. Yes, but the tailbone is out of whack. You may not really get what you're looking for in life, right? So usually at the bottom, we can have money problems, worries, anxieties. Again, chasing the tail, you're repeating the cycle of your life over and over again, and you're still not getting the results you want. Or it can radiate pain just because remember the nerves that look like the horse's tail? It can give you pain in the legs, in the hips, in the knees, in the feet. And then you're thinking, how come this is not working? If I'm going to the chiropractor, right? Chiropractors, usually they would release like the vertebrae, but not down there, not the tailbone. Almost people, when I was in the medical field, as a physical therapist, people would just ignore the tailbone. I think that's why God gave me the download. They ignore that, say, oh, that's just a bone bruise. Don't worry about it. It'll heal. But sometimes it doesn't really heal. It doesn't really fix itself. And if someone doesn't really know how to mobilize that part of them, unfortunately, the last covering of your spinal cord actually winds around the tailbone. So can you imagine if the structure is not right? It's kind of like when you are using like a bow and arrow, but your arrow is bent. it doesn't matter if your goal is to get to that target, your arrow is bent. It's not going to hit the goal.
Right.
No
Right.
matter how good you are. Does that make sense? So it's like a
Yeah.
little structure, but packs a lot of punch.
So how is it going to affect our success? How is it going to affect us going forward? I mean, so I got a bad hip or my back hurts.
Right.
How is that is do we need to fix that in order to be successful in other areas of our lives? How is it going to affect our relationships or money? Um,
It's so
or does it?
profound. You know how, okay, think about the way you sit. Just think about when you're sitting, and we have a lot of business owners, right? Can you really sit still? That's the question. If your answer is no, and then you're thinking, oh, I got to go to the next one. I got to go to the next thing. I got to do this. I got to do that. Well, you're not comfortable sitting, being still. That would affect your ability to receive. Because if you're always looking and you're never sitting still to receive, it's kind of like, hey, God has a message for you. Well, you weren't there when he delivered the message. That won't work. Does that make sense? So
Yeah.
emotionally, the people that have some dysfunction on the tailbone, you can see them, and is very prevalent in the business world. They never sit. They're always looking for the next best thing, next shiny object. But because there's something uncomfortable for them. So, like I said, structure dictates function. If it's not really properly positioned to begin with, because sometimes there's 3 to 5 bones within a tailbone. They look like, you see those dinosaur tails, but it's like compressed. So they look like that. And with you have to have a trained pair of eyes and a set of like finger dexterity, right? Because it's such a small area. And some people, if they had sexual trauma, if you look at that, they won't let you touch that area because it's so close to the private organs that we have, right? So it's like, if you're uncomfortable with your own self, because it's your own bone, right? If you're focused on you working towards healing that, usually you do anything to get better. And the beautiful thing, because I've had a few students, I've ran this class a few times already throughout the years, they never come back with the same orientation of their tailbone, ever. So sometimes it's like tucked under, sometimes one bone is twisted to the right, sometimes it's flexed a certain way or rotated. So you really need a pair of trained eyes and hands to know what's normal. So once you know what's normal, your life literally becomes so much easier. Like the ease and grace I'm talking about,
Right.
They just flow better. Like you get information like, oh, that makes sense. Okay, I got that. Or they would meet another person that they're looking for. It's like the money would come in with ease because finally they took care of themselves. Because those are like the dark shadows and the things that we like hid from everybody. Because it's so close to the private parts. If you look at it, we don't talk about those things at all. So when you have an injury to that, you can have a bone bruise physically, but you may have had emotions that you really just don't want to discuss with anyone. That's usually what I see there. When you start releasing the tension within the ligaments and the bones of that tailbone and even the muscles around it, they can release easier, right? It's so close to the rectum and the anus. It can release easier, like to do number 1 and number 2, pee and poop. It's easier, right? So the physiologic function will start improving. Their back pain starts getting better. Some people have tailbone problems and their neck or their neck hurts or they have headaches. It's such a big area because like I said, it's like if you're wearing a shirt right now, right? So Sally, if I'm going to pull your shirt down sideways to the right, feel it. You're going to feel a pull by your neck, right?
Yeah.
You can feel it because unfortunately our spinal cord, all the structures are connected. So some client, one time she was having numbness in her hand and I said, attend the tailbone class. And she's thinking, how's that going to help me? The problem is in my hand. And I said, I know anatomy and physiology very well. Can you trust that this will help you? She said, okay, whatever. I really just need your help. She was like crying while we were doing the class. And then, of course, her numbness got better. Her range of motion in her neck got better. Like just the one little tiny release down there caused the whole body to change.
Wow.
I mean, it's phenomenal. I'm thinking, God, why did you give me this, this information, right? It's fascinating to me. And you know, Sally, because you know, I'm studying human design now. So I was looking at my gate 55, I think, and it says something like the specific body part that's really associated with it was the tailbone. And I'm thinking, you must be really kidding me. It's kind of like God's giving me these clues from years ago. And if you just follow the sign, you're going to figure out exactly what to teach anyway and to help. I think he was using me to help more people. It's just, it's a weird way of doing it, right?
I'm sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure. I mean, God never gives us something that without, you know, giving us the means and the ways to get
Yes,
it there.
yes.
So
And I keep on telling people, right? If it's intuition, God gives you a sign and you're supposed to listen. When you ask the question, God doesn't answer.
right.
Because I think he wants us to just, come on, just do it. It's like, don't you have faith? I thought you trust me. So now when I'm meditating, I hear something. I don't know. Sometimes I don't know how to do it, but I'm like, okay, I guess you're going to give me people to help me with this, right? Okay, fine. So then I just do it. Yeah.
That's it. That's it. I mean, that's how this whole thing came about with me doing it.
Yeah.
I was just, all right, God, just tell me where to go, who to talk to, and bring him in, and
That's
it
good.
just happens, you know.
Thank you. Yeah.
So what other body parts can we talk about?
Sure. So the tailbone, like obviously, because it's part of your pelvic area, right? Or pubic area, you can talk about the hips, the thighs. You can throw any questions, the knees, the legs, the ankles, the feet. Usually, metaphysically, there is, if you read the Healing Your Body from A to Z by Louise Hay, those in the beginning, I was like, no, it cannot. How can the body talk to you like that? But it's so fascinating because it does have some areas that represent certain things in our lives. So, for example, you mentioned your hip, right?
Yeah.
Your hip is about a chronic emotion, maybe something you haven't processed, or you just can't put words to it. It's unconscious or subconscious. So, hip is like a chronic emotion that you've been carrying because you're putting weight on it, right? And it's a junction. So, most joints, any joint in the body, is usually a junction. In other words, when we are about to make a decision about something, just think about this. Everyone that's watching, and thank you for being here. Think about when you are about to make a decision. Like big decisions are usually, am I going to divorce this person? Am I going to stay in this relationship? That's a big one, right? Or am I going to move and find another house? Or am I going to change jobs, right?
Right.
I remember myself when it was so profound, right? Like no more physical therapy. I got out of the building and I can breathe. I feel like, oh my God, there's more oxygen out here than inside. But that was like oh, I shouldn't be there anymore. It's kind of like that's killing me. And if I walk outside this building and quit this job, I can actually live. That was my aha moment. So then I decided, okay, I'm going to resign. That was it. I make decisions like this based on my feelings. It's kind of like, I don't want to die. I want to live. I want to use this life for something good. So I listen to my body a lot when it comes to the clues and the signs. Now, the knee is about pride. Like you can't move forward, or you can't pivot, right? You can't turn. Am I going to turn left? Am I going to go back? Am I going to go forward? And then the ankles are about decisions. For those of you who have ankle problems, that's a decision problem. You're like, it's funny though, because once you make a decision, just you can look at your life, Sally, and when you made a decision, right? Okay, I'm going to do this. Do you notice the resources just came to you? Because you decided. So a lot of people get stuck in the decision when in fact, the decision is the one that initiates everything. Like all the resources will come to you if you just made a decision. So I remember one time when I wrote my book, my first solo book. I've had 5 books already, but the first solo book, Awaken Your Medical Intuition, I remember I'm like, I don't have. So the first was a $13,000 book, right? 3 months. And then the lady says, yeah, if you want to be with us coaching, it's 50,000. I did not have $50,000. Okay, you guys. But then it felt right. The container felt right. The people felt right. I said yes. And a month later, I'm like, where am I going to get that money? And somehow God provided. Like you really have to trust.
Right.
When you're moving in one direction and it feels like God's guiding you, you can't be afraid of, what am I going to do now? You decide. And then you just say, God, please help me, or send me angels and guides to help me, take me to the right people, give me the right resource, open it up for me. That's that. So all of the humans I notice have a hard time with trusting. Even if they say, yeah, they go to church, they pray. I'm like, why are you not trusting?
Yeah. Yeah, I hear you.
Therefore, leg problems exist because of it. Even in America, there's a high percentage of, I heard, hip surgery, knee surgery, whatever surgery, they like to cut people. And I'm like, why don't you just fix the root cause of the problem so you don't have to go through 2 to 3 months of recovery?
That's what I was going to ask you. So, all these people that go, their hip hurts, their knee hurts, and they go and they get the operation or whatever it is, the hip replacement, the knee replacements. Does that fix them? I mean, does that fix their energy?
My mom just had a knee surgery, and I did tell her a few months ago, because I saw this. A lot of times people want some love, right? People have these expectations. We all have it. We're human, so we all have these expectations. And I look at the energy, and she knows I can see the body in 5D. However, your own family at times don't believe you, right? Unfortunately. And we charge money for all these things. And she doesn't believe her daughter, that's why I say don't give free advice, because they don't take you personally, unfortunately, right? So I said, no, it's not your knee, Mom. I said, it's your circulation. And she goes, no, you're not a doctor. Even if I have witnessed the knee surgery myself inside the operating room, because when I was a physical therapist, I really love observing, like, what do they really do in there? What does that mean to a patient? And I tell the doctor, because I want to understand how to rehab them after better. That's why I go to those different scenes, right? And so May, what is it now? July? Yeah, going into August. And I told her, because she was rushing, at about 4 weeks, actually, she started driving. And she has her own set of attention-getting activities. And I gave her some essential oils. I did some healing, only upon request, because when you give healing to someone that doesn't really accept it or believe in it, they're not going to get better. So I only ask if they really want it. And I would only go as far as they can accept or, allow the energy to work through them.
Right.
But then she still goes to the doctor, and the doctor, I told her 4 more weeks, you're going to be walking, you're fine. After 4 weeks, she actually drove her car. That's not normal. 6 to 8 weeks is usually what's functional, and that's the soft tissues and everything are healed in about 2 months after surgery. So it took her 4 weeks. She was driving, but then she wanted more, right? Like expectation was like, well, I got to go out. I got to do this. I got to do that. Okay. So she went to the doctor, and the doctor said 3 more months. What? And it's funny. She did not hear what I said about the 4 weeks. I said, just wait 4 weeks before you start really doing your activities. She's like, no, I want to do something. Okay. Then I did not say anything, Mom. You have your body, so go ahead, do whatever you want with it. So now it's 3 more months. That was her doctor's advice to her.
Wow. Yeah.
So joints are junctions. So every time you have a problem with a certain body part, and you guys can Google this anywhere, right? If you have a problem with a certain joint, you're kind of like, okay, what is the metaphysical meaning? a lot of times with Louise Hay, she talks about the emotional dysfunction that's actually in the joint that's causing the issue. It's really that. And foot problems are usually an issue of moving forward. Anything related to the leg is related to, like, you want something, but you can't do it. Or maybe it's not the right time, you're just rushing for it. Those are usually foot problems. Now, the right side is usually related to the past. The left side is related to the future. The right side is related to male energies. So if you have issues with father, grandfather, any male in your life, that's right-sided issue. Or you have a problem with decisions and doing things, right? Like usually right side. Left-sided problems are usually female issues, like you have difficulty with receiving or just being a woman, or, playfully just embracing life. So those are left-sided problems.
Right.
Does that help?
Yeah. One of the things you had in the information you had sent me, because I was reading it and I was like, all right, my hip's been bothering me for quite a while. So let me go in and see what's causing this,
What is this thing?
What is wrong with me?
It's like an experiment.
Yeah, but something that I think you said was something about with your family and being like doing things differently from your family.
Okay.
And I was like, all right, because that kind of hit me, because I'm the only one in my family who owns their own business. Everyone, I was one of the first ones to go to college, or attempt to go to college, and I'm the only one in my immediate family and extended family even that is an entrepreneur and owns our own business. And I think a lot of times when you're, I know when you own your own business, people think you don't do anything.
Yes.
That I'm just sitting around, when my parents will call me and say, oh, what are you doing? Nothing. Why don't you come over and do this, this, and this for me? It's like, Mom, I'm working. You're not, what are you working on? It's like, I'm doing stuff, so, but, so when you wrote that, or when you were talking about that, I was like, oh, maybe that's my problem and it's my right hip. So I'm like, all right.
What are you carrying, right?
Dude, I got to work on some issues, I think.
It's funny though, sometimes, in the olden times, if you think about how moms carry their kids, right? It's on the hip, right? We can like shoot our hip on one side and put the baby there. Because if you look at civilization, like there are expectations about being a woman, really. That's what it is. And there are expectations about being a man. And so what happens is when you start changing the roles and the expectations, you are gonna encounter that, right? The resistance of the family, like whether they're gonna think of me. So that's why you have to be more grounded and anchored more in your true self and your purpose, instead of thinking about what my family will think about me. Everybody can talk about you, because, business ownership is not like an overnight success, unless you really have somebody that you're connected with, and then they just like take you under their wing and they just take you there, right?
Right.
That's easy. Right. You could do that. You can make it easy though. Majority of entrepreneurship is not quite that easy.
Right. Yeah. Okay. No, I know.
Yes.
I'm losing you in the camera there.
Yes. I have to change positions here.
Okay.
Perfect. Are you good? You can still see me.
We're
right?
good. We're good. Yeah.
Thank you.
What else was there anything else you wanted to?
Maybe we can ask the audience to ask questions.
Yeah. All right. So I'll open it up. Anyone here want to unmute?
You can ask questions about legs and hips, and we could read, with your permission, the energy long distance to see how we can help you or support you.
If anyone wants to unmic that's here and ask Vivian a question, you're more than welcome to. We're all being camera shy today.
I know.
Definitely hips.
Hi,
Both.
Chrissy. How are you? I'm like,
Hello, how are
your
you?
name is familiar, but I don't know.
She was here last time.
Oh, you were. Okay, exactly. What hip is bothering you, Chrissy? Right or left? And which
Both of
part?
them.
Front,
Take
side, or
turns.
back?
They take turns.
Oh, they. And have you had any kind of surgery or injury, like to the back, to the foot, leg area, anywhere? Hmm?
Definitely, I've had lots of surgeries. I've had C-section, so that could be a start of hips.
Yeah, that's possible, right? When was the first C-section you had? What year?
20 years ago and 15 years ago.
What's the very first, like what year? Share with me the year.
2002 and 2005.
Started in 2002. So was it a difficult birth or pregnancy? Give me a little.
Foot breach.
Oh, that's why. Okay, okay. So you started having problems then, and then does it go anywhere or it's just in the hip itself?
Mostly the hip, but I would definitely say tailbone too, because the whole sitting still thing totally describes me.
Oh, so do you work sitting majority of the time? Like it requires that you sit?
No, a little bit. Yeah, I definitely probably said too much.
Now, are you a business owner or are you
No,
no, you work for someone at this time?
no, I'm just stay at home right now.
Okay, okay. So what's your question about the hip? So it kind of relates to you that you're having some issues there. Any other area? Because it looks like this is how you look like to me, Chrissy, with your permission to read your physical body and your energy. So you look like you know how, okay, I'm gonna be graphic here, but energetically, the way I look at you is you almost have like chopped up body parts. So it's called in energy work mismatched body part. It's kind of like you have a different thigh, somebody else's knee, like that, somebody else's leg. It's like it's not really somebody else's. I'm sure it's yours, but I believe what I'm sensing is you have different parts of different realities or lifetimes that you're living in today. So I don't know if you do dreaming, lucid dreaming, or sometimes you're like remember your grandma, or like you're just good at putting pieces of the puzzle together, but over time. But in the meantime, it's hard for you to move forward because of so many. You almost want to integrate everything, make it whole, but you're having a tough time with that in your life.
Yes, and my second C-section was an ectopic, so they were twins.
Oh.
So then they had to remove the baby on my fallopian tube and a fallopian tube, and then I had a pacemaker put in too because I was like having really weird heart problems that didn't make much sense. But
Yep.
My heart kept stopping, but they thought I was fainting. So they were taking it very seriously. But then finally I did get a pacemaker. But
wow, yeah. So it's almost like right now, if you think of a pacemaker, it's an outside device, right? That's put inside your body and it gives you a rhythm. So for you, is it better if somebody just gives you like, this is your to-do list for today, and then you're going to be fine, versus, oh my God, I got to figure out what to do with my life for today, for the week or for the month.
Yes, I do agree with that.
Yep. So, whew.
And that is what's wrong with it. It's like the energy part of my heart.
Right. Yeah.
Like called stick sinus syndrome.
Right. Right. Have you actually, in the last show that I shared with Sally, they talked about human design. So you may want to look into your human design. So it kind of gives you an outline of what is really meant for you in this lifetime, how your life, you can live it, right? Because obviously when you fix your anatomy, so think about, like I said, a piano, right? When we tune up the piano properly, then a good, well, even a beginner, it'll still sound better than if a professional pianist were to use the piano, but the device is not working. So our body, our physical body, is kind of like the device that we have to move through in life. It's our vehicle. So if you just feel better in your physical body, everything works well, right? It will, because now your soul would be like, oh, I'm so happy you fixed this house. Now I love hanging out here and staying here. Because it's our soul, right? It gives it the life and the mind and the body. And then, yeah, it's soul, heart, mind, body. So the soul, though, still directs what happens. It's not the heart. Although the heart is the biggest signature as far as the chakra, that's the one that gives it the biggest energy. So you have to love your life, yourself, in order for you to actually do something outside of your body. Anything you're doing, whether it's for the kids, for the family, for work, you have to love it. Because if you don't know who you are or what you're meant to be in this planet, it just becomes like, oh my God, more things to do, right? Oh, thanks for the heart, Chrissy. How cute. Anybody else have a question?
Nobody's gonna make. So what are some things that we can do ourselves to help us out in these areas? Is there anything we can do, or do we need to go through?
Well, ask specifically. So for you, for your hip, right? Some people do journaling, right? Because it's exploring your feelings, really what's stuck in the body, because all your feelings are valid. Okay. It doesn't mean like you don't feel good about someone or something. It doesn't mean it's wrong. There's something there, right?
Right.
So if you explore your own thoughts and feelings by journaling, you're going to start understanding why you behave that way. Because remember, the problem is never outside of us. It's always, how do we look at it? Right? So if we start to blame and feel ashamed, all those negative thoughts and feelings, it's never because of outside. It's like, how does that person or situation affect you? So journaling is one. I would suggest really good meditation, like breathing in and out. Remember how we did like breathing in blue to the back of the spine, top of the head, and then breathing out red when you go in front of the body. So deep breathing, 20 to 30 minutes up and down the spine. Because our manifestation chakra, as we talked about last time, is on the 9th chakra. It's about 2 feet above our head. Most people don't breathe that deeply. Like even when I talk about breathing, people say, I breathe. Yes. Deeply. And they don't. It's a habit.
Right.
I, for one, feel better when I can really breathe deeply. It's almost like we all are magical, right? We have this magic tool that we have this intuition. And when we're calm inside of ourselves, we could just, somebody asks you a question and you can just answer because you're completely present with them. If you're not, unfortunately, let's say I'm talking to you, but then you're like, oh my God, I got to cook. Oh, I got to prepare the onions and the tomato and blah, blah, blah. Well, your mind is over there. So almost like you're splitting your soul half or a third, or I don't know how many, because you're not really fully present and listening or interacting with all of us here. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we use up so much more energy and very inefficiently when we're multitasking. I used to be doing that. That doesn't work. It just doesn't work. You think it does because I'm like, oh my God, I'm cooking, but I'm doing the Zoom right now. And then I'm actually thinking about what I'm going to do for the next 2 months. Nope, that doesn't work. That's why you have a schedule, and the physical plane, you have finite like time, right? 4 to 5. This is it. And then after that, then you go to the next activity, not everywhere. Because if you're scattered, think about somebody, if you're selling something or offering something that could help people, but your mind is somewhere else, they're not going to hear you. It's not going to land.
Right.
Whatever you say doesn't have any weight at all. They're not going to they're not going to receive it because they're doing something else. Yeah. So I would say journaling first, and then I would say breathing. Now, I nature walk every day because for me, that's really helpful. I would say monitor your moods. If 80% of the time you feel good, like you're not negative, you're actually a good person to yourself and others, and people like hanging out with you, you're doing a great job. That's what it means. Now, if you're always complaining and blaming and shaming and saying all these nasty things, but then you're not willing to really look at yourself, that doesn't work very well.
Right.
It just doesn't, because people don't want to hang out with you. They just don't.
Exactly. No, it's true. I get you.
They don't want to hang out with you either.
Right. Well, that's what happens, right?
Yeah.
What about a lot of people talk about walking barefoot outside and
Yeah,
is that
grounded.
Because I was thinking that somebody posted something about that and I was like, oh, I can't even remember the last time I was barefoot outside. I said, I have to go walk around my yard now.
Yeah. Actually, even I squat down. So let's say I'm in my head. You know how some days you're just like, oh my God, I have this to do this. I have to do this. So I go outside. I breathe deeply because we breathe inhaling 8 seconds in, 8 seconds out. And then I squat down like in a prayer position. I put my hands like so. And then I put my thumbs against my heart and I squat down. You've seen this in yoga, right? Like even the inside of the outside of your elbows are on the inside of your knees. And when I squat down by the grass or even by my front porch, I take a deep breath a few times and I basically bring all my energies back to me. Because when we sleep, unfortunately, we do travel. So we have to come back and bring back all that information we got from the ethers and go, okay, how do I apply that in real life, right? Because over there, it looks easy. There's no time. There's no time. It's like, okay, I got that. Okay, that's going to happen. However, when you come to the physical plane, it's kind of like, talk to this person, write this post, like write this email and then offer something. Like that's how it works. It's not like, well, God said he's going to give me $1 million. Okay, so where's that going to come from? It could be the lottery, except if you have problems with receiving money from the lottery or you don't play the lottery, you won't get it that way, right? So the thing with us human minds is we always expect. So let's say you get a divine guidance that you're going to fix your relationship with your daughter. Okay, great. But then you're not doing anything about it, or you're still not very happy person, right? How's that going to happen? It could be in a form of a sickness. It could be different forms, right? Or it could be your friend connects you with that person. And then now it bridges the gap. So when we don't expect how it's going to be delivered to us, it's so much easier. Yeah. So what I'm saying to you guys is when you're grounded and when you're in your body fully, the manifestation happens faster because you're not checked out. If you ignore the pain, you notice either your medical bills will go up. Like it's just because you're not really solving the problem or even attempting to, right? So a lot of times what I'm sharing with you is you meditate, ask God for help, and then be open to what that looks like, because it could be in different forms like this. It could be just through listening to a podcast or a YouTube video. Right. And then when you follow, you heard Sally say, oh, I need to walk on grass or just stand on it. Well, let's try that the whole week. Let's see what happens. It's so interesting. One time I heard, oh, don't worry about money. I was like, okay. And then I started noticing, oh, I got a check in the mail, $1 something for a reimbursement. Celebrate, right? So when you fix your structure, like I said, the tailbone is a very good structure to fix because that's the end result, like the tail end of your spinal cord, right? There's like a dura mater that wraps around. And when the thing that covers your vital parts are working, everything just works better. You can walk better. Some people have emotional releases when we do this tailbone class. Some people, their legs just get better. Like whatever they think is the problem is never the problem, usually. That's what it. I have observed.
Yeah. Yep. There's Vienna.
All right. Oh, yay. I want you to meet Vienna because Vienna is our emotion code practitioner. So in our transformational wellness academy, she's actually taken the tailbone class a while back.
Yeah, Vienna was here. She's been in my, that's right. She has been in my.
Ah, perfect. Awesome. Yeah. So any other questions that we can answer for you? Anything related to your legs moving forward, the tailbone, any connection? How does that work?
Yes, Vivian, can I ask a question? This is Lillian.
Hi, Lillian. Thanks for coming.
Hi. Yes, wonderful. Thank you for the invitation. And, wanted to mention that, of course, I've had this problem with my legs for quite a while.
Mhm.
And the thing with it is that, sometimes my legs work like they're fine.
Yes.
And then all of a sudden they get really weak. I cannot move in the same place. I'll be standing and I have trouble, with just doing a step. So I don't know what's causing that problem because, like I said, sometimes I feel like I'm walking so strongly. I feel wonderful, Then all of a sudden it just stops on me. So I don't know what's causing that. So
Lillian, which part of your legs actually give you the most trouble? The hips, the thighs, the knees, the legs, or the ankle, or the feet or toes?
I think the weakness is in the legs, but I do have, a low back very stressed out, like I feel in my low back, I feel it like it's really stiff.
Yeah.
In my low back.
Yeah.
So but when I'm walking, what I feel the problem is not being able to move my legs or losing my balance. Balance is a problem as well.
Yes.
So I think it's a combination of problems and I don't know how come sometimes, it feels so good, like especially if I have been resting. And I cannot be just resting, but then is when I feel, when I'm really tired, sometimes I just even have problems standing up in my feet. Yes.
Yeah. Of course, the low back is the foundation, right? Like that pelvic area is the foundation of everything. So like you mentioned, it's a multiple problem, right? Because balance is not just in the legs, but it's also in between our ears. So our ears, that's a balance mechanism there. The cerebellum, the little brain underneath the big brain, that's also the center of balance. So you have some overthinking going on there and some thoughts that are not quite sometimes beneficial for you. That's one. Yeah. But at the same time, the low back means responsibility. You feel overly responsible for certain things, Lillian?
Right.
Yes. So remember how we said breathe. So for the day, it's like this. This is how I have solved mine. Okay, I'm going to share with you how I solved my problem of too much responsibility in one day. Because, it's a good trait, right? That we feel responsible and we're like, okay, I'm mature enough. I can help, blah, blah, blah. However, if let's say the day, you can only do one or two things, but in your head, you got, I got 12 things I got to do. It's impossible. It's impossible to do 12. By the way, I realized that for me, it was a means of self-sabotage. So I would give myself this big list of, oh my God, I got to do all these things. But even if I try to put it in like minutes or hours, I go, this is too much of a list. Like, what am I trying to do? So when I finally got my aha that I was overdoing it, I was trying so hard, right? I don't know who I was trying to impress. But I go, well, how do I not disappoint myself anymore? So I started putting 3 lists. That's why I tell people 1 to 3 per day. And then I make sure I complete it completely, not like halfway completion, right? But I should
Yes.
feel satisfied when I finish those 1 to 3 things.
Right.
And then if I
Yes.
don't, let's say the third is like, oh, I did a fourth, but it's not done. I'm going to move it over to the next day on my to-do list. And so my goal is not the list. My goal is to feel satisfied. I'm a generator. I have to feel satisfied. So if I'm satisfied with the 2 that I've done, or 2 and 1/4, then I did a great job for the day. So it's almost like retraining yourself, your brain, your mind, your feelings, not to over deliver, because who are you hurting? Yourself, right? Who are you trying to impress? Somebody, right? So if you ask yourself why, so in the past, it's because I was vying for, let's say, valedictorian. So I needed to have good grades. So, but then as I got older, well, nobody's going to give me the grade. It's only me. So you may have to really translate that physically into, like, what is the one thing I can do today that when I do it, I would feel satisfied? So now just start with 1. And I developed that habit for 30 days. That's how you develop a habit. So in the past, I used to exercise, right? Like aerobics and all that. And then somehow something happened and then I couldn't. So then I became non-exercising for several years, actually. But then I'm like, I don't like myself not exercising. So when I went back, I had to go back to a goal of 5 minutes of exercise, which was ridiculous for me. I was laughing at myself. But I promised for 30 days, I had to exercise for 5 minutes. And this is funny. I'll tell you how my mind started sabotaging me. By Saturday came and Sunday, and I heard this voice, well, why do you need to exercise? It's Saturday, it's Sunday. You're supposed to take a break. And then I'm wait, I promised myself I'm going to exercise for 5 minutes. And then I had to redefine exercise. So I started defining exercise, including breathing as an exercise for 5 minutes. So I added breathing to my exercise routine. And you know what? That took me over the hump. That was my hump. On the 6th and 7th day of the first week, I'm thinking, I don't feel like getting up. I don't feel like going outside. I don't feel like walking. I don't even feel like turning on the DVD to do something. So then I added breathing as an exercise. And that's how I overcame that self-sabotage. And so, of course, after 30 days, I did 30 days of, I promised myself exercise. That got rid of that self-sabotage. Because obviously I'm an overachiever, so I did not do 5 minutes. Obviously I did 10. But because I only promised myself 5, I felt so good when I do 10. Because I'm like, oh my God, I did it. Yes, yes, yes. And then I gained my confidence in myself again.
Yes.
This makes
And
sense
I think that's what my problem is. And I think it's because I don't feel confident at this time. And it's mainly because, I've always been independent.
Yes.
And I feel like, there are so many things, even small things that I cannot accomplish right now. So that keeps me overthinking, how can I do this? How can I manage this? And I think this is why, it's part of the worries that I do have. And I'm trying to work with. And, but still, when I feel strong, I feel like, really positive. I think when I feel so limited, when I cannot do something, when I cannot open a jar or something, and, it's so minimal that, it's kind of worrisome. And then I start thinking, how am I going to take care of this problem? So that's what I think is my overthinking.
Lillian, I've been in physical therapy, occupational therapy. There are some things to help you open that jar, by the way, like some way to assist you there. So you can Google it and say, what if I have difficulty opening a jar? There is such a thing to assist that.
Right, right. And I do have those. Thank you for the suggestion. I do have some of those gadgets. And in fact, I want to share with you that my main help comes when I ask my angels to help
There
me.
you go. You got it, girl.
Yes, that definitely works.
Yoo-hoo, yoo-hoo.
Yes.
Sally's like cheering for you. Yeah, so
Yes.
and Lillian, we're not robots. So please
Yes.
remember, some days we feel good. I'm one of them. Okay, even if I do energy healing, some days
Right.
really it's like I really don't want to do anything right now. And I just want to do 30 minutes of whatever, email or typing some letter, and that's all I want to do. That's why I'm
Right.
an entrepreneur. That's why I don't work for anyone, because I really don't want to be hearing people say, okay, well, you should work from this and this. I don't want to do that. That's why I became
Yes.
this person, right? So we have to be okay with giving ourselves permission to rest. Your body
Right.
will give you all the clues. So honestly, when you listen to your body, because even if we have a soul and a spirit, well, if you don't have a body, you still can't do anything. That's important, right? So I always tell people, fix your physical body, because this is the house of your soul. Well, if you can't function properly, doesn't quite work, then you get disappointed, right? So once you see what's causing the issue, and it could be emotional, Lillian. That's why we have our emotion code practitioner, right? So I do all the physical and psychic and spiritual stuff. And then Vienna does kind of the sandwich of the emotional stuff. So we do that all together because we want to help people really live their best life ever. Like, how can you live your life in purpose? Because once we know what we're doing here on this planet, oh my God, there is no room for sickness.
Yes.
Yes, it is.
Yes.
So,
well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, I enjoyed Vienna's help. Session with her. It was wonderful. It helped me a lot. And I look forward to having another session soon.
Yay. Good job. Good job.
Thank you.
You're welcome. There's Sally. Another satisfied customer, huh?
There you go. There you go.
Yeah.
Love it. Love it.
Definitely.
Yes.
So did anyone else have any other questions before we say goodbye?
I know. This is our little social Sunday weekends.
This was so much fun. Thank you, Vivian, for joining us today.
Yeah, definitely.
Rosemary, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I kind of snuck in here, Vivian. Is that okay?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Absolutely.
We love that you're here.
So I wanted to ask about the tailbone, because I've actually been able to do your tailbone class. I had a lot of pain in my tailbone after I had Dominic. And then after the tailbone class, it went away for a long time. And then I had Christian.
Another big congratulations.
Yeah. And then it kind of came back a little bit, not as bad as before, but I kind of have it back a little bit.
Okay. Yeah, so my repeat students for the tailbone, you guys just get 60% of the tuition. You know that, right? So you don't pay the full tuition for the repeat classes because this is an academy class. It could be it got bruised again. That's a possibility. Okay. As the baby, but I remember the baby was C-section. Was it?
Christian? No.
Was he natural birth?
He was.
Okay. So it could be as the baby, the head comes through in the body. Sometimes we bruise that tailbone because it is so close to our private area, right? So that's a possibility, or it got moved. Because remember, I can't remember with yours, do you have 3 to 5? How many tailbone segments did you have last time? When we did
I want to say it was 3.
3, okay. So it could be something moved that caused the issue. Or it could be there's just a muscle attached to those pelvic floor areas that are like tighter than the other. So it's kind of pulling or giving tension, like a mechanical thing. Do you feel like one leg is tighter than the other? I kind of look at you right now and it looks like you're off. You're not balanced on your legs.
I kind of feel it from my hip flexor. Would that affect it? I feel my hip flexor tight. I almost tore my hip flexor when I was dancing in college.
Oh,
And so it gets really tight.
right. So the hip flexors are attached to L2, 3, and 4, which is the low back before it enters the front of the hip. That's where the hip flexors are. FYI, that the anatomy. So when that's a little bit off, that can cause a problem in the pelvic floor area, or it would be just, it feels weird, right? Because it's hard to be stable and it's hard to sit still when you have a tailbone issue. It just is. So that's why you try different things and you want to try this and you want to try that. Like you can't even choose and just be still. That's the side effect of a tailbone not working properly. So yeah, I think our next class actually is on a Saturday, July 31. That's what's coming up. So I'm going to share a video again on Tuesday on my TV show. So if you guys want to tune in on Tuesday at 12 p.m., that would be great. Otherwise, Sally, they can go to viviandeguzman.com/academy and look at the tailbone class that we're having on July 31.
Okay, and I'll post that in the emails that I send out. So everyone should be, if you're signed up for my email, make sure you do that. You can go to selfcarerockstar.com and you can sign up and get on the email list. And every Wednesday or Thursday, I send out a newsletter.
Cool.
So I'll have all Vivian's information in this Wednesday's newsletter, and I'll have the link to this video. So if you want to watch it again, you can. And this will be up on YouTube probably in another hour or so. It just runs its thing and it puts it up there.
And for those people that are long distance, I would suggest that two of you actually do the class together, because when we do hands-on healing sessions, you have to receive, right? You're the client, they're lying on the table getting the healing from your partner, and then your other partner switches afterwards. So then you give and they receive. Perfect. Because, I mean, you can't really just keep on giving without receiving. That's what causes the imbalance in the money flow, by the way. I'm just telling you guys, that's how it works. So when you give, you also receive, sometimes not from the person, you get it from other people. But the way I'm setting up my academy classes is you need to exchange with the person you trust, right? So when you have two people doing it, it's very relaxing. So you paid money, but then you actually felt better, and then you can do better things in the world. That's how I set it up.
Perfect. That's
all right. Thank you, Sally. This is so much fun.
Thank you for coming. I'm so glad you came, and I really enjoyed our talk today.
Oh, thank you. I hope that releases some of your hip thing. Otherwise, connect with Vienna also. That's a little beyond physical. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming.
That's great. Thank you, everyone. Have a great weekend. We'll be back next Sunday. So
thank you.